In a Canadian exclusive, CBC News has been given rare permission to report from Iran. The government there imposes restrictions on international journalists, but it does not check our material. Our senior international correspondent, Margaret Evans, joins us now from Tehran. Margaret, good morning. What can you tell us?
Well, David, as you were just saying, we've seen more strikes overnight. Now, this is the second day in a row where we've seen Iran and the United States firing at each other, or at least targets linked to each other. And that supposedly in the midst of a ceasefire, which was agreed upon in April. And that's led to a lot of concern in the region because while it is serious, obviously, and another escalation, it hasn't escalated so far back to that set of full-scale war. People are wondering if what's going to happen here is we're going to just see this kind of exchange. The strikes overnight from the U.S. military at targets here in Iran mainly seemed to target the south, around the Strait of Hormuz, as you were saying. One strike reported, according to news agencies, in a city just south of Tehran, but for the most part to the south. Iran has said it launched what it calls defensive attacks. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard said 18 strikes in particular were attacked, or locations attacked. U.S. assets in the region. They have bases, of course, throughout the Middle East. And we also know from the Jordanian military that they were intercepting some of those strikes aimed at the U.S. base there.
Margaret, you are, I want to reiterate for people, inside Iran's capital, such a rare opportunity to be there. We are now 3.5 months into this war. What is the sense that you have of people and their lives amidst all of this?
Well, we're really fresh on the ground, David. In fact, we just arrived last night after a 14-hour drive from the Turkish border. And as we've been reporting, we are with government minders, if you like. So our freedom to talk to people is not yet established. Of course, we're trying our best. But there is a sense, just in talking with any ordinary people here, that when they hear the news of a strike, for instance, we were just arriving in the capital in Tehran at that point last night, you know, there's kind of a shiver because they don't want to see that damage. We passed some of it on our drive in, a destroyed bridge, a lot of the infrastructure targeted in the early days of the war. But obviously people here are hoping that negotiators are going to be able to manage to come out of this stalemate, this tit-for-tat kind of war, but not war stage that we seem to be in. There are also people will talk to you about the economy, of course. And the fact that we are with government minders shows you the nervousness of the regime in a sense, too. They're very anxious to ensure that their messaging gets across. I must say that the government here appears very confident outwardly that they're actually doing well in this war, that they are going to be able to manage this state because, of course, they have, that magic chip, if you like, which is control of the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, again, also say that the strait is now closed. I mean, not much was getting by in any case. And of course, we did hear about a U.S. strike on a tanker in the strait, allegedly carrying Iranian oil, trying to breach the U.S. blockade. But the sense on the streets here, you're certainly from the billboards getting a sense that there is an attempt to reinforce the message of continuity for the Islamic Republic. You see the pictures, of the founder of the revolution, Khomeini, with the last supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and who was assassinated, of course, by the United States and Israel in their strikes, and the son of Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei. There are billboards of those three together everywhere. There are government-sponsored or encouraged demonstrations on the streets every night. We're going to go to one of them later this evening and see what people there have to say. Harder to talk to people who are not in favor of the regime, because we know that that can be very difficult for them in terms of potential repercussions. But again, we are moving around the city in early days, and we'll try to get to as many people as we can.
Margaret, I'm going to beg one more question of you, just because it is such a remarkable opportunity for us to speak with you, one of our top foreign correspondents, in a place we are so rarely able to get to at a time of war. And you described the 14 hours it took to drive in such a vast country, Iran. Can you tell me anything more about that journey, the logistics of just getting in?
Well, I mean, it was for us a 3-day journey because you're going overland. You have to deal with the Turkish authorities. You get to Istanbul, and then you get to the border, where you have a long process getting your gear across the border. We have to do a carnet for all of that material. Then we had to arrange to meet our government minders, which I'll explain is it's a media relations company that is appointed or approved by the government. They give you approval of your visa and are kind of responsible for you and your conduct, and help to assist you with a government-appointed translator. So that's how it works. But that's who helped us. They picked us up at the border, and we did that drive. We didn't see a lot of the country because we drove like heck to be able to get here. Our filming permission is only for Tehran, and we only have visas for about 8 days. On the other hand, it did give us a sense the last time we came in, which was last May, and so that was just before the first war, recent war, the Israeli-U.S. war against Iran, which was in June of last year. The anniversary of that's coming up. And then, of course, what followed was the second war that began at the end of February. We flew in the last time when we came in because at that point, people were optimistic that the Americans and the Iranians might actually be able to have an agreement that would pull them back from the brink. And they were actually in negotiations in both instances when those attacks from Israel and the United States began. That makes, of course, people on the ground here very wary of anything that the United States has to say in terms of good faith in terms of the negotiations. That's what they say here. But because there are these ongoing breaches of the ceasefire, people here are very nervous, and flights are really unpredictable. And so that's why we came in overland, even though it costs us a lot of valuable time on the ground in terms of journeying. But it does get us to allow us to see other parts of the country. Tehran is a city of 10 million people, but there is a big middle class here. So it's harder to pick out the poverty that exists and the people who are really being hit by the economy, the soaring inflation here, the destruction, the uncertainty, the interruption to daily life, schools, jobs, all the rest of it, everything uncertain about whether or not, life is going to be able to continue as normal. So we got a bit of a glimpse of that. Complicated picture, maybe a longer answer than you might have liked.
It is a remarkable one, and a Canadian exclusive. Veteran foreign correspondent Margaret Evans in the Iranian capital, thank you very much.